November 2nd, 2020. Can I have a roll call, please?
Mrs. Shute? Here. Mr. Fitzgerald?
Here.
Mrs. Dinallo?
Here.
Mrs. Jenkins?
Here.
Mr. Augustine?
Here.
Mr. Fodor?
Present.
And Mr. Hatch?
Here. I need approval of the agenda as submitted.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as submitted.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Fitzgerald?
Yes.
Mrs. Dinallo?
Yes.
Mrs. Jenkins?
Yes.
Mr. Augustine?
Yes.
Mr. Fodor?
Yes.
Mrs. Shute?
Yes.
And Mr. Hatch?
Yes, the agenda passed. Invocation will be given by Councilperson Jim Fodor, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand.
Almighty God, you have set before us the responsibility of the city. We ask guidance and direction that we, as members of council, may do what is best for the people who live here. Amen.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can I get a motion to accept the minutes from our regular council meeting from October 19th? Roll call.
Mrs. Dinallo?
Yes.
Mrs. Jenkins?
Yes.
Mr. Augustine?
Yes.
Mr. Fodor?
Yes.
Mrs. Shute?
Yes.
Mr. Fitzgerald?
Yes.
Mr. Hatch?
Yes, minutes accepted. This is our public comment. Clerk?
Do we have any correspondence from residents?
Oh, no, for the residents. Do you have any emails?
Oh, no, I do not.
Okay, thank you. We'll move to our committee reports. Senior Committee.
Jim, do you have any?
Are we seniors first?
Yes.
Sorry.
Okay. We did have a conversation with Denise. She has moved out of the YMCA, and she's at Paisley Road with the Lee County Health District. They've given her a spot out here. They have also done a few social activities with the the place on Chestnut Street there,
Legion.
American Legion.
American Legion.
Legion.
The Legion.
The Legion. That's what I thought, whatever, next year. So, and obviously with COVID-19, it's been an impact on what they're able to do, and it appears that their trial with the line has come and gone, and I think COVID has had a lot to do with that. They are trying a new platform to work with virtual activities, and it's just another avenue that they're trying. I think, one of the things that we had mentioned to the seniors since last year, we did support them financially, that we would come back this year and meet with them and talk to them. I think at this moment in time, we're also looking at not financially giving any money to the seniors due to the fact that they really don't have any plans in place per se. And what I have to look at as council is the seniors are going. I'm not very sure, but in a couple of years, we may have to think about what activities we as council want to provide for our seniors. So, as we head into 2021, there should be some thoughts in our minds. I think we need to stay in contact with the seniors and see where they're headed. And then also get a clearer picture of what Angel City Council would do for our seniors. That's about it at this moment in time.
Thank you. Any questions from council? No. Thank you. Citizen Safety Committee?
Yes, so, we had our meeting, a few weeks ago, 2 or 3 weeks ago now. The topic was asked was we received an update on the intersection camera project. Right now, they're on track to start installing in the next several months, but they're working on figuring out that sweet spot of what is included in our budget versus getting the most bang for their buck. So that's still ongoing and it's still moving forward. There have been recommendations coming out of the governor's office regarding body cameras. We as a committee listened to what was being said by our chief and the administrative, I'm going to get that wrong, administrative captain. Lieutenant, sergeant, something like that. I always get the titles wrong. Regarding the body cameras, they have started researching the costs related to them. They have found cameras that are made by the same company that currently we receive our dashboard cameras through. So we reviewed the cost of purchasing body cameras is equivalent to the cost of one officer on the road. We do currently have dashboard cameras in all of our vehicles that have been very effective in capturing footage as well as audio. And it is something, if we were to get the body cameras, it would be a system that's on the same wavelength as the dashboard cams. But after reviewing concerns about the cost and the fact that there's currently no funding mechanism from the governor, it was determined to keep an eye on the topic. There is a possibility that the governor will be giving out grants or some sort of funding assistance for departments to adapt and adopt a body cam system. But right now, that's not there, so we're just going to keep watching. If the governor does give us money, then our department is ready to move forward if possible. And that was it.
Thank you. Any questions from council? Seeing none, thank you. Downtown Painesville Organization. Nick?
Before Nick talks, could Samantha point her camera towards you, Paul?
I'm just trying to roll so the camera's facing, so the camera's facing the hall.
If it's gonna cause a problem, that's okay.
No.
we are good until the end of the year. We're doing a membership drive right now. So Joy, our executive director, is working with the organization committee, and we are putting together a list of everybody to resend out membership applications and reminders. We're getting a good response from that, and then we're also following up with everybody and creating a better, what am I trying to say, a better cycle for doing it next year. So the membership drive is going well, and right now the board is currently working on online annual luncheon. In previous years, we've done annual luncheon where we all go to the Methodist Church in the square at our awards for the people who have helped Painesville. This year we're doing it a little bit different. They're organizing a Zoom meeting and putting something together where we will recognize people who have, been supporting Painesville businesses, the downtown Painesville organization, everything we stand for. I'm pretty excited about that, because all I can really do is log into the Zoom meeting, and so that'll be fun. Our annual accreditation is coming up with Heritage Ohio. That's September 3rd. So board members are getting ready to accreditation meeting. That is it.
Thank you. Any questions from council for Ed?
Finance Committee.
The finance committee met this afternoon for an hour and a half, I might add. And every time, when we talk about budgets, it's always interesting. But I think we have a little presentation a little bit later on, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it at this moment, but we did meet, and after Andy's going to make his presentation, I'm sure in the next several days, with myself or one of the other finance people will be talking with the other council people to get some input. And Andy will also give the timeline we're following here with the budgetary process this year. So with that, back to you, Paul.
All right, thank you. We'll move into legislation, which we have none. Unfinished business, none. New business, Painesville Concord jet appointments. I request council's concurrence to appoint Doug Lewis as the JED Board Employee Representative effective January 1st, 2021, and Christine Shute is appointed to fill the unexpired term of Doug Lewis as the Painesville representative to the JED effective January 1st, 2021. Can I get a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept those appointments.
Second.
Need a roll call, please.
So, Mrs. Demallo,
Yes.
Mrs. Jenkins, Mrs. Jenkins,
Yes.
sorry, Mr. Augustine,
Yes.
Mr. Fodor, Mr. Fodor,
Yes.
Mrs. Shute,
Abstain.
Mr. Fitzgerald,
Yes.
and Mr. Patch.
Yes, congratulations, you two. I'd like to move into the Main Street project.
So at the Finance Committee, we discussed the Main Street project. Leanne's here tonight to share the same information with council as a whole. We do need some direction, because I do have to give a letter of intent to the Army Corps by the end of the week. So Leanne's going to share the information, and then we can proceed to answer any questions that council might have.
So the Army Corps did a feasibility study for the Main Street retaining wall. And that study was done to determine if the Main Street retaining wall is a good project to fund.
Point of order,
Can you hear me now?
Better.
Okay.
That they see you in the car.
In the computer? Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Here, you sit here. Sorry. All right, so the Army Corps of Engineers has conducted a feasibility study to determine if the Bank Street retaining wall is a good project to fund. The Army Corps analyzes everything in risks and benefit cost analysis. The primary purpose of this study is to determine a long-term viable alternative for the protection of Bank Street and adjacent public utilities. Without action, loss of public utilities and public access to Bank Street would occur, and the road, together with adjacent utilities, would eventually be undermined. In the absence of a plan to eliminate erosion or a no-action plan, it is assumed that the city will take action to repair the Bank Street Road and associated utilities when a section of the adjacent stream bank slope fails. So the Army Corps looked at multiple of different things in their study. The Army Corps looked at the option of abandoning the roadway and buying and demolishing the houses along that portion of Bank Street. This cost was a high risk, aka low benefit to cost ratio, due to the fact that the relocation cost for each household would be high, along with the cost of demolishing the houses. The cost of relocating the utilities was also considered in this option. Then the Army Corps looked at different types of walls to determine the most feasible wall or the highest benefit to cost ratio. So which area was targeted? Can you see that screen? Can you guys see that screen where it shows the proposed wall location?
No, I think they need to share the screen
Okay.
with us.
Thank you. Can you see it now?
Yes.
Okay, so the proposed wall location is shown in the top picture, and in the bottom picture, it is the type of wall that they're going to be placing. So it's a 325-foot long wall that will be constructed, and the plan for the repair is to construct the sheet pile wall near the top of the slope, and the soil nails and the wire mesh reinforcement will be removed. This is a picture, it's hard to see, but this is a picture of all the different walls. So here's wall 1, here's wall 2, here's wall 3. This is the area that is failing. Then we have wall 4, wall 5, wall 6, and wall 7. The wall that we're talking about is going to overlap wall 2 by 25 feet, go all the way across here, and then overlap wall 4 by 25 feet, thereby making wall 3 non-existent. So this would be all the retaining walls that are located along Bank Street. So walls 1, 2, and 3, this one that we're going to abandon, are in serious to critical condition. And then wall 4 is in fair condition, wall 5 is in satisfactory condition, and wall 6 and 7 are in poor condition. So we could anticipate having to do more with Army Corps in order to replace the walls that are in question. So if we don't move forward with the Army Corps project, we looked at different things that we could do. Making the road one-way would not work because it's still going to erode and have issues. We talked about doing a cul-de-sac. So the cul-de-sac would result in 10 homes being purchased and demolished, the utilities being relocated, and the addition of a pump station, because right now that's our main interceptor that goes down Bank Street and connects to State and takes it to our plant. That total would be a range of 3.25 million to 4.05 million. And the Army Corps would not give us assistance with that. That would be 100% on the city. So our recommendation is to move forward with the project and partner with the Army Corps of Engineers. It would be a benefit to the residents and to the city to move forward with this project.
What was the cost?
The cost of the project, our cost with Army Corps is 1.3 million. The total cost of the project is 4 million. So Army Corps is paying, we're paying 35% of the total cost of the project.
Any other questions from council?
If I may, so just a couple things. One, can somebody confirm that we have been saving for several years to be able to pay for that portion?
So what we have, we've already paid $250,000 for the feasibility study. That money was set aside earlier. The 1.3 million would be paid for with level 2 stormwater funds, which have been set aside and are being held at the county until we get invoices.
Okay. And then, this is nothing new. I just want to say this for anybody that's watching this. This is nothing new or a departure from the plans we've been discussing for several years. This is exactly what we have been talking about coming to fruition, correct?
That is correct.
That was it for me.
The other thing I might want to mention is, I think the report, if I'm not mistaken, the report came out with is that if nothing was done, we're probably looking at between 10 and 15 years that the street probably years. And then, by putting in this reinforcement, it could last up to 50 years.
Correct.
That is correct.
Okay.
Any other, Lori? See anybody else? So, my opinion would be, or my thoughts would be that we would join in with the Corps of Engineers. What's your thoughts, council people?
I would politely beg that everybody agrees that this needs to be done. This area of that road has been a concern for quite some time, and with the departure of Casement Street and now the undermining of Madison, I know it has all of the residents on that road very fearful for the future of their homes. So I am wholeheartedly agreeing that we move forward with this.
I agree with Katie as well. I think we should move forward with this as well.
I also agree that we should move forward.
I agree as well.
I'm on board. I agree that we need to do this.
Lori?
I'm fine with moving forward.
Okay. You have direction?
We have clear direction. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Do we take the picture off now? Thank you.
We have a department presentation tonight from the UFS Electric Cost of Service.
So while we get this set up, I just want to set the foundation. We had done a cost of service study and put in a restructuring plan for our electric rates. In June of 2020, we had our last of the 3-year plan be implemented. So we are looking at a new cost of service study. As we discussed previously, there are a couple areas that we wanted our consultant to look at. One being the justification of the outside adder for our outside customers. The other being a plan to eliminate seasonal rates so that it has one rate for the entire year. And then we are also going to show you just if we did nothing, just to give you some options. So I'm actually gonna, Jeff's on here. I don't know if Jeff wants to introduce Dan for you guys. Jeff, can you hear me?
Yeah, this is Dan.
Kazmon from Utility Financial Services. He's been working with us for a long time, and Utility Financial Services comes well regarded and viewed highly throughout the nation, I believe. He does a lot of work with the APPA National Conference, and really good at what he does. So without further ado, I'll give it over to Dan.
Dan, we're gonna share with you so that you can take over the screen.
Okay. I'm gonna take screen 3. Share. Okay, now do you see the
Perfect.
cover page?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, okay, great. Everyone, like that. Well, thank you, Jeff, and yes, I appreciate having an opportunity here tonight to kind of walk through the summary of the cost of service we completed late in 2019, and then with all the COVID thing here, we got kind of postponed up here to November, but nonetheless, what we did measure the cost of service, which includes looking at a 5-year financial projection of your electric utility. And part of that 5-year projection is we look at with 3 key financial targets in there, and to kind of identify the financial health of your utility. So we'll look at that here in the next couple slides. The other part of the cost of service, customer charges are a piece or a component of your rate structure that we've been working with over the past couple of years. And in the previous 3-year rate design we have been, first we implemented the customer charge, and then we've been adjusting that up each year. And as we adjust that monthly customer charge, which is a fixed charge, we've been bringing down your energy. We also looked at the cost of seasonality between the summer and the winter season. And we'll take a look at that in more detail. And then, as I mentioned, the difference between the township and the city, what the cost differences are to justify that adder that we apply to out of city or township customers. And then finally, I have a proposed or a rate design that we can take a look at here at the end. So the first thing we have are 1 assumptions we used in the analysis and the financial piece. And you can see inflation and growth, pretty typical, 2.2 on inflation, 0.5% for growth. The one that really is significant, and in a good way, your power supply. You can see it is projected in 21 to be coming down about 10%. So I know we've been forecasting that for a while, a long time coming, and like it should be here next year. Now, just to keep in mind, we do have a power cost adjustment mechanism that is on a 12-month rolling average, so it will not be instant. It'll come in to your rate, and actually you're adding the rate into your customers' bills, or a little bit each month over the next 2021 each month in there. And then 22 was pretty stable with a 1.8% adjustment up, and then about 1% down in 23. A little bit of detail here why 2021 has come down. The pool of purchases are going to be replacing your First Energy and Morgan Stanley commitment to REAP, which is a savings of about $2 million annually. So that's a good thing. One other piece I want to just bring up too is your cash position. Right now, looking back at your
rate in 22 through the next 3 years. So in what we're looking at here is a 3-year kind of rate track commitment. 2020 will be done, and the rates were already kind of established for that. So we're really looking at 21, 22, and 23. So it would be a 0 followed by 2 years at 1.9. That gets our operating income to an income level, which is good. We're not at a target that we would like, but we are moving in that direction. And our cash balances, you see, over a 5-year time frame, we do come to a level where we meet and exceed that minimum level of cash. That is an option that we looked at where we left your encumbered cash as it is, or as it stood. Option B was if we moved $3.1 million of that encumbered cash into your operating cash, you know, it would look like this. All right. I really would not change the recommended rate track because we just don't want to continue running at an operating loss each year. Any questions at this point?
Any questions from council?
Okay, great. So that's the financial side, my initial projection. So then getting into the cost of service. Now, the last 3 years, we presented to council in 2017, and those were for a rate that were for 18, 19, and 20. And those rate adjustments were implemented and they were all at a neutral adjustment, and they were not really addressing the subsidization between rate classes so much. It was more about simplifying and clarifying what the rate components were and what they should be, and making the rate more simple in administration. This still is the direction shows that our residential E1 and E3 general commercial, that those 2 rate classes need more of an adjustment up, where your large commercial E4, E6, and area lighting need adjustments that are less than average. So they should see less of an adjustment if we're going up than compared to the E1 and E3. What we're going to look at is having a bandwidth so that I can adjust these here 2 classes a little bit higher than the other 3 classes. To achieve, if you recall, that 0 revenue adjustment to the utility in year 1 and then the 1.9. So we'll look at bandwidth here of 1.5 from the overall 1.9% adjustment. We'll see that in the rate design. The other part of cost of service looks at your customer charge. And this is something that we've been implementing and growing each year for the past 2 years to where now our residential class is at $7.50. Over the next 3 years, the example rate design I have will bring that up to about $15 by 20 in 3 years, 24. So we would do that for each of these rate tariffs, is bring those customer charges up to cost of service, and including, you see your large commercial and industrial currently has no customer charge, and we'll be implementing those also. And we'll take a look at this in a little more detail here in an upcoming slide. But it's important to have this customer charge. It helps stabilize revenues to your utility, and it helps stabilize revenues to your customer. time, they're only paying more on a commodity basis, that kilowatt hour. And when they're not using much, you're not collecting for those fixed costs that it takes the utility to maintain and replace that system to make sure they have power when they want it, and safe and reliable. So the customer charge is an important component to help stabilize revenue. The next piece was seasonality, and the only piece of your rate that is or has a potential of seasonality, meaning depending on what you're in summer or winter, what are the cost drivers? As far as the cost of your distribution system, those are the same regardless of what time of the year it is. But it's the power supply and those resources, the cost of the resources to provide your utility with the peaks that it needs to supply, like in the summer, the air conditioning load for residential. Those drive costs to be different in the seasons. So we looked at, for your residential customer, the demand piece of power supply and the energy piece of power supply in both summer and winter. And you see there's about a 6% reduction in power supply for winter as compared to summer. And for the general commercial, there's a little bit less of a price variance. It's 4%. Now, the commercial, you see it as an 11% variance. That's because they're a very steady flow. And so what this is looking at is how the variance between what their summer peaks are compared to their winter peaks. And in this large commercial, there's not a big variation there. So those are more stable. Where residential, you tend to have those summer peaks being set from air, as well as in that general commercial. But overall, it shows there is a variance between summer and winter, but to the extent of between 4 and 10%. This is a very basic form of a time of use rate. If you're aware of time of use, usually you think of it between hours of the day. This looks at it by the season you're in. But we're going to take a look at a rate design. We're going to go for a more to simplify the rate. And my understanding is it would help customers plan more if they have rates that we're not adjusting by season. So what happens is we just normalize, or we get a rate that is the same throughout summer and winter. The last piece here is we took a look at the services that we provide to the township, and we currently apply a 16% adder, so they're under your city rate. It's like if you're in residential, it's the city rate with a 16% adder to it for customer charge and for energy charge. So when you 21 through 23, it has a revenue change from 0% and then 1.9 and 1.9 increases. It's moving our customer charges towards cost of service. I was able to reduce your rate. Now, rate blocks are meant, like, you might have a couple of kilowatt hour rate blocks, where it's the first 200 and the next 300, and then all the excess are another rate. And we'll see that in the examples I have. But you're able to reduce your rate block to be 1. And additionally, seasonality was removed over the 3 years. So this doesn't all happen in year 1. It takes each year, we're gradually getting there. Just like in the last 3 years, we have this plan, this focus that over time we're going to get to cost of service. And so it looks like in the next 3 years we can really accomplish a lot of these goals, as well as the township adder, bringing that to 6%. This is what it looks like in kind of the big picture. First, on the left, these bold, those are the main city rate classes: E1 residential, E3, E4, and E6. Those are kind of the skeleton of your rate. And under like E1, you have different classifications where first is township. If you're in the township, you have that adder to the city rate. If you're with water heating, you fall under another kind of rate or rate block format. You have only a few customers in these different tariffs. Water heating, space heating. These are rates that before, when we started, were highly discounted in the winter, like in that outer block in the winter season. And we've been working those up towards the E1 residential rate. And in this rate design, all these three end up being equal to this E1 residential. So you have just the E1 and the ET1 over 3 years. So that and how those are laid out. The 3 columns here on the right are the impact that the customers are going to see in their bill with the rate design provided. So you see how the city customers in year 1, we had an overall 0 rate adjustment, but they're going to see about a 0.5% increase. Now keep in mind, in our cost of service, it shows that that E1 customer class needs about 15% increase to get to cost of service. So what I'm looking at is giving them a little more than what the average adjustment is that we are implementing. And that average is 0, so I'm giving them a 0.5%. Township is a -3.8, and that's because I'm making an adjustment to that adder. I'm reducing that adder by about 3.3% in each of these 3 years. And I have more detail on the next slide here on that. Let's see, so the other rates here are very similar. The other big one here is E4, that's a large customer class you have. Very similar to residential. But you see when I look at cost of service, remember the residential shows needed a 14% increase, but E4 shows it only needs 1.5%. And I had to give them this 2.6%. You kind of see that each of these bigger classes from the city have these increases, even though have about a $220,000 shortfall of this 30.8 million. So it would come in to be about 30.6 million. That 220,000 is the shortfall generated from that township reduction. Okay, so if we just allow that 220,000 reduction to happen and allow that to bring down our cash a little bit by that amount, we would be able to bring the adjustments here for E4 and E6 more towards the average, that 1.9, or maybe a little bit less than that. So that's one other idea that you could go down with this rate design. This is residential, kind of what each year looks like. We're moving that customer charge up each year, and we get to where we're at cost of service at $15 here in year 3. And you see our energy charge has a summer and winter rate. This is our current rate right here. And in year 1, they get a little bit closer, and in year 2, they become a single rate. So that has removed the seasonality for that residential E1 rate class, which then transfers to ET, which is the township rate, would be equal also. So it simplifies that seasonality. Average customer in year 1 is going to see about a 13-cent increase in their bill. That's that 0.5%. And then the following 2 years is about a $2.22 or $2.25 each year increase on their monthly bill for the average customer. And then this kind of gives you an idea of how it affects various usage levels in each year. All right. So from E1, it's just taking that rate and multiplying it by this multiplier. So the township rate, you can see I'm bringing that 16% down to 12.7, down to 9.3, finally to 6% in year 3. So their rates will drop in year 1 by 3.8%, 1.1, and 1.2. All right. So they're saving. Now their usage is a little higher on average, around 900, like 80%. They're going to see about $5.75 in year 1 decrease in their bill, monthly bill, and $1.80 in year 2 and 3. E4, much the same thing, increasing that customer charge, but you see a little more complex here with that block rate, block 1, 2, and 3. We're able to take and over the 3 years get to where that summer is all in one block and it's equal to the winter block. So really, it's a customer charge, it's an energy charge, and a demand charge. And that demand charge you can see is also all in one block here too. On E6, I'm implementing that customer charge. It looks large, going up $75 each year, but this is a customer class that is $10,000 plus a month. So this is very minor on their bill. But you can see again, I did not have an opportunity to get the energy all in one block in this class, but my focus was years and to run another cost of service and then start tweaking in those demand components and such when you have those billing details from your customers. I went through a lot of numbers, and I hope you're all awake with detail. Are there questions on any of that?
Jim, you got any questions?
I guess for me, I need a little time to digest all the numbers, and I don't know what the next steps are here, but you know, maybe in a couple of weeks that Dan could come back and we have another, you know, go around, just to make sure that we all understand what the numbers actually mean.
Any other questions from council?
The only other thing I'd say is a hard copy of the
Is it one available?
possibility. I don't pick it up.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Yes, we will have.
You have to have a copy.
yeah, we have a copy, we'll make sure we talk to all the council, find out who wants a hard copy, and we'll make copies for whomever wants a hard copy. We can also make sure you get an email version for those who just want to look at it electronically.
Thank you.
So I have a question. As we look at, if you could go back a slide or two to where you have the percentages where, I think it's either 12 or 13. 12 or 13 in there. 12. The other way.
Page.
And that's, I was looking at the one that, when we want to charge our big customers more to make up the deficit because, you know,
That was in 11.
yes, I'm sorry. So, Mike, is there a concern with us in terms of an economic development perspective that might hurt us by, you know, giving our, typically we want to flatten out that township. I don't understand it, but we want to flatten out that township rate. And concern from an economic development perspective that our bigger customers subsidize this might give us a hard time. You know, have an economic development impact. I'm thinking of someone like Marlboro, who has a problem. You know, they're a problem that has issues sometimes.
Yeah, so I would say that those types of feedback from council helps us do rates. So what this is doing, what Dan is showing us is all purely just data and just what the cost of service says. But if council wants to say, yeah, that's nice what cost of service says, but we want to make sure that we don't increase our industrial rates, that affects how we do our cost of service. So, or not cost of service, but the rate restructuring over the next 3 years. So in this chart that Dan's showing you here, it does say cost of service that our industrial customers subsidize. You see that negative 0.7%. So what the cost of service is saying is cut your industrial rates 0.07%, increase your residential rates 10.3%. Because in the cost of service, our residents aren't paying their full share, while our industrial customer is paying a little bit more than their fair share. But if we take and say our township customers' demands for the lowering of the adder, that's what drove the rate structure and the elimination of the seasonal rates. Those two pieces drove the recommendation. But if you want to say, let's stick to purely what the cost of service says and not make a change in the seasonal adder and not make a change in the township adder and not make a change in the seasonal blocks, that would adjust the recommendation from Dan. So it all depends on what the clear direction of council is. You want us to stick clearly to cost of service, we can do that. but we also told our township customers and our industrial customer that we would look at eliminating the seasonal rates. And then we told our township customer we would look at true cost of service on their rates adder. Did you get all that? It's incredibly complicated, but
It is incredible.
it is clear, it is 100% on what does council want, but what we're bringing you is the elimination of seasonal, the lowering of the township adder to true cost of service, and those were the two main priorities. Now, if the priority is, yeah, do all of that, but don't increase industrial rates, then it'll change what this chart looks like.
But Monica, can I ask
So if I read it correctly, ultimately, if we were to implement this, at the end of 3 years, the township will still be paying about 6% more in rate than a resident, correct?
Correct.
And we feel justified, we feel that that's the better way to go from a customer service perspective?
I'm
Give us
saying,
numbers that justify that.
right, so what we promised the township is that we would justify that adder, and the justification of that adder is a 6% adder.
Okay.
You can keep it at 16%, heck, you could make it 50% if you wanted to, that's council's choice. But what we're saying is, the cost of service justification for the adder is 6%.
Lori?
So, but what I think we're also saying is that throughout history, the residents really haven't been paying their fair share. And so now to accommodate these other things that we've decided that we're concerned about, we need to up the resident portion. And that's kind of the main gist I'm getting. Am I confused or is that clear?
Not only the resident piece, but we would also be increasing our in-town rates for our large commercial piece as well, to get us the revenue we need to cover the adder decrease from the township.
But are we saying that because we don't feel that those two, the residents and the businesses, have been paying their, enough to sustain the utility, and so we've been kind of dishing it off on other people?
So,
I guess I'm saying that kind of plainly, but.
So back to the other chart, it showed that our resident customer needs to be increased by 10.3%. That means that they have not been paying their fair share.
So am I wrong in thinking that the residents own the utility? That is their utility? So what's the advantage to the residents for owning the utility?
So all of our customers own the utility.
Okay, thank you, yeah.
And whatever council feels we should do for our residents and their voters is the direction we should head in.
So all the customers own the utility, not the residents?
Technically, it is within the corporation limits by the state of Ohio. Those customers, well, that's a trick question.
Well, because I was always under the assumption that the residents own the utility. And so the advantage of being the owner was that you got a little bit of something, discounted for that.
I think
Because you're
technically,
taking on the.
all of our customers are owners of the utility.
I don't know.
The
That's
reason
interesting.
that most people, go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, I would like to just also throw out some options here. I was just kind of working with a start idea here, but an option would be that we do adjust this E1 up more, a little bit more. So remember, we're targeting 1.9, maybe we go to 2.9, maybe 3.2. And that would allow us to reduce the adjustments on E4 and E6. So that right now, I kind of set all the city at about the same adjustment, but service is showing we really should be giving a smaller increase to large commercial and industrial. And we do this in a number of utilities where if you recognize that you're giving them a smaller adjustment than your average increase, they recognize that. And you do that over time. And then as you do cost of service studies in the future, these come closer together where they become where your customer classes are subsidizing each other less and less.
Can I ask, a question?
Sure.
Okay, so I guess I'm seeing percentages, but then I thought I heard Dan, and correct me if I'm wrong, Dan, say that it was like a $2 and something difference for residential customers per year. Is that correct?
Yep, right here. If we, for the 2.6% rate increase,
Okay,
the average customer would be a $2.22 increase on the bill.
over a year.
Per month.
Okay, thank you. I thought it was yearly, so I wasn't sure. So then, is it possible, Monica, because I know we see these changes, is it possible to have a concrete, scenario run, like Christine had brought up Marvel? Is it possible to look at the difference, should we do this for Marvel? Or, for an average resident with high usage, what does that look like? Is it possible to do that?
Yeah, I mean, the chart that Dan has there shows a high usage. Also, you'll see that the high usage actually sees a decrease in that first year. But we could, yeah, right there, yep. We could definitely take Marvel's usage last year and run it under these scenarios to see what that would look like. Again, and as Dan pointed out, the cost of service says we should be decreasing the industrial piece, and we can do that. Just know that that means another part has to increase. What we're saying is that would be the residential customer, unless you don't want to change the adder to the township. If you don't want to change the adder to the township, then that changes the whole scenario. And we can, keep charging them at the 16% adder, which would change the percentage to the in-corporation limit customer.
Has there been any discussion about possibly having a work session to talk about this?
So that's this is just presenting the cost of service study.
Yeah.
We have time. So if you guys aren't comfortable with this and you want us to play with numbers and bring back different options, we have time to do that. This was just like the really long introduction.
So I think this is all really, this is awesome information. I think it would be helpful for council and everybody can for us to discuss maybe some alternative scenarios and then have a work session to review what those would look like. Like you had talked about maybe not increasing decreasing the adder as much and how that would offset maybe in-town residential. I'm sure there's scenarios that we'd all kind of like to look at that just to see where to start.
Well, I agree with Katie, absolutely, I'd like to see a work session, but I just want to make sure that this slide that we're looking at, my bill today, and I was in the 700 range, and my bill today was $100. In year 2, my bill is going to be $102.22, or is that $2.22 per kilowatt?
An additional $2.22
Period.
on your bill for that month.
Plus the $12.50, right?
Plus the $12.50, which is gone up here.
No, that's all baked into that. This is taking your whole bill, right?
Because if you notice the energy charge, is going down, the energy charge goes down as the customer service charge goes up, but at the same time, our power cost is going down. So all of that plays into that just a $2.22 increase.
So the top chart is by year and the chart below is by month? Is that what you're saying?
No, what we're saying is that's what your bill each month of year one would look like each month of year two. But as the customer charge goes up, your energy charge is going down, and our actual power portfolio is going down. So you're seeing kind of a stabilization of the energy piece. So even though there's an increase on the monthly charge, your kilowatt times your energy plus the customer service charge all comes down to a $2.22 increase per month.
So this is a comparable process to when we did the PCA, where we normalized it rather than it being so extensive. We increased the rates and lowered the PCA so that it was less volatile. Correct?
Exactly, yes.
Okay.
You know,
So how is our smart, that service that we bought into that's gonna give us money back and you know, people are selling light bulbs, I can't remember what.
Efficiency Smart.
Yes, and how is that figure in here at all?
That's all wrapped into that power portfolio piece that we've been talking about.
Okay.
the other thing we had talked about is, Dan, when you work with other electric companies, do they have a summer rate and a winter rate?
Oh, there are others that have that summer and winter rate, but there are others that don't too.
Because that was. Go ahead.
I think once, you're getting into some new metering and, down maybe the next 3 years after this 3 years, we start looking at some rates. There's no perfect rate, but there's better ways with the better technology to reduce subsidy between how customers use the utility. And I don't want to convolute all this so with more changes, but there are other things down the road that we can get where this sets us up really good for getting into those adjustments down the road.
Okay.
So the reason we looked at changing the seasonality is because our industrial customers are asking us to flatten the rate out to one rate for the year, because that jump in seasonality doesn't allow them to plan and forecast as easily as it would be if it was just a rate, which we weren't able to get that in industrial, as Dan said, but we got a lot closer.
Any other questions?
Katie and I were looking at a possible work session. Can we, from the rest of the group?
Sure. Lori? Yes.
Monica, when do you need a direction on this? I mean, obviously, we're going into 2021 in 2 months.
Usually we like to start changes at one of the season changes, so we probably wouldn't do the increase or change until June, because that's when our summer rates. So if we could really get some clear direction in first quarter so that we can get it all organized and implement in June, I think that's a good, fair goal for all of us.
Any other questions? Seeing none, we will move on to our law director, administrative reports.
Thank you, Dan.
All right, thank you. Bye-bye.
Nothing. City manager.
Nothing report.
All right, correspondence, clerk of council.
Better unshare the screen for a second.
I'm sorry. I think he.
think, Dan, you need to unshare your screen.
I'm trying.
Up and down. Just go to the,
We're gonna be with you forever.
Dan, just go to the top of your screen. Go to the top, and it'll say unshare.
Stop sharing.
I'm in my PowerPoint. There. I'm in my PowerPoint. Ooh.
It'll say stop sharing.
Sorry.
At least it's something appropriate.
Yeah, right?
The two words.
Hurry up.
Stop.
I don't-
There we go.
There we go.
There.
I did it.
I got it.
You gotta read that.
Screen share.
It's your turn to read that.
We did it on our end, Dan.
Okay.
Thank you.
About that. Bye now.
Bye.
Okay, we need to read the,
Yes.
okay. The next regular council meeting will be held on Monday, November 16th at 7:30 p.m. The city offices will be closed, November 11th for Veterans Day. Also, coming up on Thursday, November 12th is Shop with a Cop at 6:30 p.m. And we do have our holidays shop and stroll, the November 19th, the 20th, and 21st from 12 to 7 p.m. on Main Street.
Thank you. Closing comments, Lori?
Yeah, I just wanted to start tonight by thanking Linda Reed for her service as the Executive Director of the Payville Area Chamber of Commerce today that she was retiring from her position. I really wish her the best. I'm going to miss her. She mentioned in her farewell letter that she had laughed and cried with many people. I would tell you that she touched a lot of people and always had a very joyful spirit. It was always good to see her. So her spirit will be missed at events. I also wanted to share with the residents that I had the opportunity to look at the Lake County Economic Dashboard. And if you haven't seen it, you can review the report at www.lcport.org. And I guess I wanted to share that I was relieved to know some things about Lake County from that dashboard. And one is that although Lake County is higher than some other Ohio counties, we're still in line with the state as far as the averages for unemployment in 2020, which I think is pretty good news. I think that although that is good, our hotel tax revenues are down considerably, which is kind of expected from COVID. But our sales tax revenues really haven't changed since 2017, so I see that as a pretty good sign. And I'm seeing some building permits for residential properties that they seem to be trending upward. So I see those also as very positive things. So anyway, if you could get a chance to look at that report, it might be encouraging to you. I know with COVID, it's easy to feel kind of swamped and discouraged at times. I also wanted to thank Monica as well as Doug for keeping council informed so well through your manager's reports that we get weekly. I certainly appreciate that. Mentioned to residents that the planning department has a number of very interesting and important agenda items coming up. So if you can get a chance to log into the meeting on November 12th, especially if you've received a letter or a notice that you might be directly affected by any decisions made there, it's a good idea to tap into that. I also think it's a good idea every once in a while to stop and pause and really thank the members of our community that serve voluntarily on our boards and commissions. I don't think we do enough of that. I'm excited about the shop and stroll. I always love that event. I know that the manager's report mentioned that all the stores will be turning over to their Christmas inventory next week, so that's exciting. And really encourage our residents to shop local, super important. I think Monica mentioned that every $100 spent here in the city, of every $100 spent, 68 $8.02 remain in the city. So that's something to really think about. Acknowledge our firefighters, the ones that go above and beyond their duty all the time, and that's a difficult job as it is, but I did read that some of the, there was an EMS call to a resident's home that they noticed that the resident was out of food, that the firefighters took money out of their own pockets to purchase that food, and that's part of what being a community is all about, and I really appreciate when our staff members delve into their own time and efforts and energy to be a part of this community as well as working for the community. So all of that is very much appreciated. And our COVID funds, I mentioned in the finance meeting, I really appreciate the way that those were spent and all the thought that went into those things. So thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you. Katie?
Yes, so I would like to take a second to welcome Samantha to tonight's meeting. It is her first run as the clerk, and things went really smoothly. Also, thank you to Val for providing support during this process. We really appreciate you. Otherwise, tomorrow's election day. I know we are seeing astronomical voter turnout, and I could not be happier. No matter how you vote, whether you agree with me or not, I wish that every single election was voted as if our lives and our futures depended on it. And that's exactly what people are doing right now. And it should be like this in every election. I'm really excited to see so many people out there. It makes my weird poli-sci heart happy. But otherwise, hopefully everybody has a safe and healthy process tomorrow, getting out and voting. Huge praises for the Board of Elections. They've been running early voting for the last several weeks, and they've really been nailing the process. And you know, like I said, we've seen historic numbers turn out already, and so I'm really excited to see what the final numbers are after tomorrow night. Thank you.
Thank you. Dick?
I would also like to welcome Samantha. Thank you for coming tonight. And I wanted to mention, Betsy Jeff here is reminding me that at our office we had someone come out and switch out our electrical meter. It was a work day, and it was very easy. I was on the phone when he came in, and I just kind of listened out of the side of my ear. Literally took like 30 seconds, and there was disruption from a business that is on the computer. So power was off, power was on, and within a couple, like a minute, my phone was back working. So it was really amazing, very fast. I was very happy with it. So good job with all that.
That's why it's been going so far so good.
Yeah, quick and painless. So tell them they're doing a good job over there.
Thank
I'll
you.
do that.
Deborah? I mean, Tom?
Me?
No, this is Deborah.
I would also like to welcome Samantha as our new clerk. Good luck. I hope you can put up with all of us here. And also, I hope everybody takes some time tomorrow to get out and vote, those who haven't voted yet. I agree with Katie that this is an important election, and you all need to get out there and vote. So that's it. Thank you.
Jim?
executive session held according to Article 2, Section 6.61, to consider the discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of an employee or official of the city. Need a second?
I'll second.
Roll call.
Mrs. Jenkins,
Yes.
Mr. Augustine,
Yes.
Mr. Fodor,
Yes.
Mrs. Shu,
Yes.
Mr. Fitzgerald,
Yes.
Mrs. Denalo,
Yes.
Mr. Heck.
Yes, all right.